r/AskReddit. What is the fastest way a room of happy people turns sour you've witnessed? We had to work on a holiday but management didn't, so there was nobody to unlock the building. We waited outside from 7 AM until 7:45 and were told that if we didn't get in by 8 we could go home. 7:55 the manager shows up and lets us in. At a small gathering, as the lid was lifted on an extra large pizza, a guy with a miserable cold sneezed directly onto it. Was bartending on one of our restaurant's busiest days. Place was packed and man and a boy of about 9 couldn't stop wrestling and giggling. The man about 30 years old started repeatedly yelling, "I'm gonna grab your penis." Yeah, the whole place dropped dead silent. Mother grabs the kid and says they need to chill out, telling them they're all going to be let go just before Christmas. I worked at a casino for a couple of years and the joke is totally true. How do you piss off 500 old people? Yell bingo. In Portugal during the World Cup. Get there early to find a street bar in the center with a big screen. Place is soon packed. England start really well and everyone is singing and laughing. All of a sudden the bar up the road erupts into massive cheers. Lots of people go out into the road to see. Apparently someone just dropped an entire tray of drinks. We all laugh and go back to watching the game. 10 seconds later England score. Our bar erupts and we spill into the street. The bar up the road is deadly silent now. Weird. The game starts again and the bar up the road starts shouting again. Nothing in the game. What's going on? People look up the road again. Can't quite work it out. Then a really bad tackle goes in and the penny finally drops. Our bar's TV is the only one using satellite and all the other bars have cable. Our feed is about 20 seconds behind everywhere else. Every exciting moment is audible about 20 seconds before we get to see it. Have never seen a bar empty so fast in all my life. This is more of a mild story but still very uncomfortable. It was at work during break. A whole bunch of us were outside smoking. One guy asks my co-worker if he has any kids. Says that he likes to dress up as Santa for the young ones. So my co-worker tells him I have a daughter that just turned 20. And he replied with, "Well, she can definitely come sit on my lap." The silence after that sentence was so painful. Everyone ended up going back inside after that. It was super awkward. Bride throwing up on herself on the dance floor during the first dance. She tried to hold it back, but the groom just pointed her towards the dance floor and she let her rip. Was impressive. Camp. 150 kids headed to an ice skating rink. Everyone laughing, cheering, having fun. Sitting on school buses for 2 hours. The place is closed. Instant chaos. Screaming. General unhappiness. Took us back the next day but still the angriest I've ever seen. 150 kids. Dude decided to pop the question to his girlfriend at a work holiday party. She said no. Both parties began to cry inconsolably. All the guys in the room tried to cheer up the guy with their tales of woe. All the women in the room took the woman aside and did whatever the female version of the above was. Went from a fairly happy event to a complete disaster within minutes. Plus side. While all of this shit was going down, no one was hitting the buffet, so I cleaned the fuck up. I was watching Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon in a movie theater when it came out in the early 1970s. The projector died during a fight scene. Bad snowstorm started about 4 AM a few years ago. My co-workers and I were texting each other thinking no way would they make us come into our job today, we are non-essential workers. We're all home waiting for the email to go out regarding whether or not our boss would give us the day off. Email finally goes out around 7:30 AM saying that we would have a shorter day but everyone must show up for work by 9. So I laid up, cleaned off my car, shoveled out of my parking spot and headed to work on very precarious roads. I got to work on time and was greeted by my co-workers who were all pretty happy just to not have gotten into an accident on the way over. All of the clients and meetings had been cancelled, so there was a party-like atmosphere. Just as we were talking about playing charades, we get another email from the boss saying because road conditions were so bad they were closing the agency after all and everyone had to go home. This was 20 minutes after we had all gotten there. I have never seen 20 plus people all scream "Are you fucking kidding me" at the same time before. It was absurd and everyone was pissed. Someone admitted that they took advantage of a very drunk woman in a game of Never Have I Ever. I made the mistake of playing categories with my mother. She said no foreign words. You have to use English words. Fine. Fair enough. She then called out someone for using a foreign word. I can't remember. It's been 10 years. He took off the points. The next fucking round she used 3 foreign words. I called her out on it and she said it was no big deal. It was just a game. I argued that not only had she set the rule, but that she already called someone out for doing it. She called me a fucking asshole and left the room. The Thanksgiving family time was over as pretty much everyone decided that was the time to leave. Total time from game start to end of the family time? 6 minutes. Edit. I meant categories, not scategories. Sorry if I ruined it for anyone. Every family reunion when my one aunt gets drunk and brings up my other aunt that died. Happens every time. My friend used to work for a company that has always promised our IT department a trip to Hawaii for working through a couple of rough years without pay raise, and on the flip side we won't get any personnel cut. It was a verbal promise that once we are back to profitable, the IT department would get all expense paid trip. Back around October of 2015. They were gathered in the largest meeting room for a meeting with the president. There were snacks, drinks, pizza, etc. It was assumed that it was a celebration for a good year and they'd get the promised trip. It was a mass layoff since IT has been outsourced. All credentials were locked during the meeting and everyone was asked to leave the premise right after the meeting. The other day, on Thanksgiving, my brother cracked a cold beer right as we were about to eat. Problem was, we were at my mom's and she's super anti-alcohol, unless she wants some. Well, since my brother cracked one, my dad did too, and my mom turned into some shit from The Exorcist. Screaming, cussing my dad and brother, hurling personal insults, looking for keys so she could threaten to leave. The whole 9 yards. The worst part is I haven't been up to see them in months, so I had just driven 3+ hours with my kids and my husband and we had just gotten there 30 minutes prior. I just sat there awkwardly staring at my husband while the brawl took place until we could sneak out on the porch to hide. Then we all ate in silence. How was Wyle's holiday? We were discussing road safety with the headmaster. One of the pupils pointed out that there had been a car crash right in front of her just as she had been about to step out onto the road earlier that week, which had been really scary. The headmaster laughed and asked her what she was wearing and if it had been her fault. Absolute silence for 10 seconds as he squirmed and then mumbled, "I mean, were you wearing a ball gown?" Or, as if that had been what he'd meant. Pathetic and excruciating. A 50-year-old man to a teenage girl. I was helping to run a Christian disco when I was a teenager back in the 80s. Everyone was happy and dancing until I innocently played Tainted Love. The entire dance floor cleared in seconds because apparently, Tainted Love is a gay anthem. Drinking with colleagues from work. A guy was needling me and a friend about how out of shape we are. It was fair and lighthearted. Suddenly my friend blurts out, "Yeah, at least we have attractive wives." Needling guy's wife was standing right there. Back in high school, there was a classmate of mine whose father had died. The circumstances of his death were tragic enough. He died the same day my classmate was born. That all of the school knew about it. One day we were messing around. Nothing too rowdy. Just cracking dumb jokes the way 15-year-old kids do. And our French teacher singled him out and said, "Your father would be so disappointed by your behavior." The class became completely quiet. My classmate froze, staring at the teacher in utter disbelief. Then every single one of us started shouting at the teacher. She even went to get the principal, which turned out to be counterproductive for her, because we were the best class of our school, and the principal didn't doubt our word for a second. I was at a really fun party which turned sour when one of the people in the room punched his pregnant girlfriend for no apparent reason. He mysteriously fell down a flight of stairs about 20 seconds later, with no witnesses to what happened. Family gathering was going great until the host realized she was missing thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. She started accusing everyone of being thieves until her husband said he put it away without telling her. Family members waiting outside the baby ward. The husband comes out with the shocked expressions. Sits down and says the kid's not mine. Everyone becomes confused but then are horrified. A day later, I could see the husband talking to who is presumed his in-laws, begging him not to leave their daughter and saying they'll do something about the baby. Whole company, 60 plus people, gathered at a product unveiling cheerleading event where we were expecting surprising news, bonuses. Instead we were informed that the least senior and biggest dickhead was promoted to partner. All downhill from there. Walking into the school library to see the video after having just heard from a breathless teacher that Challenger exploded. There was a teacher on that flight and several grades of science classes had been in the library watching it live. The president of our company got completely plastered at our Christmas party. His speech started off funny because he was slurring hard and he was playing on it. Then he started talking about how he came from nothing and became something. Then he proceeded to tell us how if it wasn't for us working so hard and keeping our clients happy, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish building his mega mansion for him and his family. Nor would he have been able to afford his new Benz. Awkward muttering. Followed by him directing us to drink up and enjoy. Because due to budget cuts, the future Christmas party bonus budget is cancelled from here on out. Many of my co-workers relied on that bonus. No one was impressed. Except for one person. The rest of us quit within the first few months into the new year. I was once at a disco on Hogmanay in Scotland and the DJ played God Save the Queen instead of Flower of Scotland at midnight. He was lucky he made it out alive. Running out of booze at a wedding. Like an hour into the reception. Luckily I had a flask because I'm not an amateur. Movie theater. Parents and their kids went to go watch Princess and the Frog movie and another movie came up with two people fucking in a closet. Edit. I have no idea what the movie was. Sorry guys and gals. The only thing I remember is a guy fucking his coworker on top of a table or scanner printer with his pants down. You are able to see his bare ass. This was in 2009, so if anyone knows what movie it might be, please let me know because I am actually curious as well. Edit. So I went over the movies people commented and wanted seems to be the closest to it. The movie theater does show older movies sometimes. So I'm guessing they still had the wanted film in their inventory. Kinda sucks I can't remember more. But then again it was 10 years ago. Also, wowzer, I didn't expect this comment to receive this much upvotes. Thank you. BlizzCon 2018 when a new Diablo was announced for mobile devices. A little backstory. I was about 6 or 7 at the time. My dad was addicted to coke and meth. And was using both daily. He really hated me because I'm autistic. And would constantly say hurtful things, hit me, etc. Sometimes he would do mean things to me. And then would go to play with my little brother and he would tell him to shun me as an extra punishment. I would sometimes go days without talking to my family members. As ordered from my dad. Anyways, this was a day where he was being particularly awful in the car on our way to Best Buy. When we got there, he put my brother on his shoulders, told him to ignore me, and started picking out games. For the PlayStation that I wasn't allowed to touch, we got to the line and I was so tired of it. I yelled, "I'm tired of you being mean. I want you to stop hurting me and pretending to be nice. Stop hurting me." The whole store went silent. He tried to laugh it off but he got a lot of side eye. And one woman pulled her kid away from him. It was an awesome feeling. Followed by a sinking feeling when the store remained quiet until I left with him. One time we were all making fun of people who don't believe in evolution until one girl pipes up and goes, "I don't believe in evolution." Dead silence until, in her divine wisdom, she adds, "If we're descended from apes then why are there still apes?" Was on a team, about 15 people, for a special project for a regional internet service provider. During the bi-weekly team meeting the manager was super pumped about how far ahead of schedule we were due to some new processes we came up with. After about 20 minutes of attaboys, The manager concluded with telling us all we were being laid off in the same tone of voice she used for the whole meeting, issuing a bunch of praise. Most of us awkwardly laughed for a couple seconds thinking she was joking. She was not. Didn't witness it personally but heard about it and the aftermath. Back in 2006 an army unit was being extended beyond its original 12-month deployment to Iraq. This was the first extension for the surgeon before it became common. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld traveled to the unit's home base to address the families of the soldiers and let them know why these soldiers weren't coming home and the few that had made it home were having to turn around and go back. It wasn't a horribly happy crowd to start with, but they were willing to hear him out and be respectful. Apparently he came in incredibly conceited about the whole situation and basically made a comment along the lines of they are soldiers and will do what they are told and like it. He was completely lacking in empathy or understanding and just expected everyone to accept and support the decision. This comment and demeanor immediately turned the crowd hostile and the town hall was quickly cancelled and Rumsfeld had to be escorted out by his security detail. I was there for the classic took photos afterwards. Wish I had started looting like some of my co-workers. Congratulations, we've hit all our sales goals. The company is looking up. Record profits. We all gather you here today to tell you our company is doing great. However, we are shutting down this facility to reorganize our business interest going forward. Here's your separation paperwork. Worst thing is how the place was divided into 3 camps of A. People in denial or out and out crying at the news. B. People who saw it coming and stoically accepted it, and C. People who hated their jobs and were incredibly happy they were being let go and getting severance to boot. 800 guys in a grocery warehouse being told it was going to be automated in 5 years. One fella yelled out asking if we fought the robots and one could we keep our jobs lol. Was in a sales meeting at a car dealership I used to work in. Sales manager is an alcoholic. Functioning but still an alcoholic. New salesman has to make a delivery of a car he sold a few days prior and the sales manager tells him he'll follow him in his car and give him a lift back, to which the new salesman says, "You sure you're okay to drive?" Everyone went silent. I am from and still live in Atlanta. So gonna go with when I was out at a bar during the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl game. We were all laughing about this guy who wouldn't quit messaging my friend and literally stalking her IRL. Coming to her job, etc. We were making jokes about his Facebook profile when she accidentally clicked on messages and saw this Bible of text explaining how she was the reason that he hadn't killed himself yet. 50th anniversary for my old rugby club. People were flying in from all around the world. 150 plus people ranging from late teens to 70s. We went on a big pub crawl. Combined with my dad's 60th birthday. The night before the big dinner. One of the old boys fell over outside the local pub. Hit his head on the concrete and was knocked out. Ambulance was called and we helped him get into it. Explained what happened to the medics and off he went with his brother to the hospital. We laughed it off and went back to drinking. By far not the first time a player has gone to hospital after a night out. The night after at the big suit and tie dinner. One of the old boys was wondering where him and his brother were. So he called the brother and asked if he was okay. He wasn't. He had a brain aneurysm and had little to no chance of surviving. A room full of 150 plus tough as nails men and women went from having the time of their life to pretty much dead silent. He died 4 days after. In high school, we were told that if the power was out for more than 15 minutes, we could go home as it would be hazardous to have students in a poorly lit school. Cut to us counting the minutes when power was out and packing our bags at the 15th minute mark, happy as clams. As we were emptying our lockers in the halls and getting jackets on, power comes back and the principal, blocking the exit, yells at everyone to get back to class. The collective groan and shouts of displeasure were something else. I was in a local independently run bookshop in my hometown and it was full of people happily searching the labyrinth of books. And the owner was taking to one particular shopper about World War II history books. They seemed to be having a proper good chinwag and it was kind of obvious that most of the other shoppers were tuned into their conversation. After all, it was a very interesting talk they were having about history. Right up until the shopper said something along the lines of, You know, there's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that the Holocaust didn't exactly happen. The tension in that room went up so damn quick I could smell it. It felt like we were all walking underwater. Then the shop owner fucking exploded and threw the guy out of the shop. We all perused the shelves in silence. Back when I waited tables. Guy walking to his table. Had a massive heart attack. And hit the floor. EMTs said he was dead before he hit the floor. I've never seen a restaurant go so silent so quickly. When the boss got drunk at the Christmas party and let slip that there was going to be layoffs coming in the new year. When they revealed that Drake was the special guest at Camp Flognaw instead of Frank Ocean. I used to work for this new performance hall in Nick, and one morning during our morning meetings, one of our managers thought she was being unique and uplifting by ending our meeting with forcing us to say one thing I'm grateful to company name here for is. All 30 of us were pretty happy to just start the day since it was a beautiful day out, but that soured our mood really quick. A bunch of people got hostile with answers like the wonderful healthcare we are given, we have none, and the magnificent ours are crap and inconsiderate. That time my boozy aunt started getting on my teenage cousin's case about his pants sagging and gave him a wedgie helping him pull them up during a fairly formal holiday dinner. He chased after her to give her a wedgie back. She was wearing a skirt and nothing under it. My cousin managed to pull it up over her head while making contact with deeply disturbing parts of Aunt Janice. Every fork in the place just froze while my aunt was standing there too drunk to understand why her skirt was over her head, and my cousin stared in horror at his hand that was wet or dirty or God knows what, whispering audibly, "But no." My grandma at Christmas telling my cousin she going to hell for her tattoos. Little did she know that half her grandkids have tattoos, me included. When the PlayStation 3's price was announced in a 2006 E3 keynote, everyone there, games media, journalists, etc, is super hyped because yay new PlayStation. They said the price and everyone in the room literally gasped. Family up at the cottage. Some back form fishing. Others playing board games. Others still just having fun. All British decent within 2 generations and plenty of families still on England and Scotland. Breaking news. Princess Diana's dead. Zombie camp out for Girl Scouts. It was a full-on mess. Here were the issues. We had to get up at 4 to catch a bus at 5. The bus the organizers provided. It wasn't there. Not enough supplies. Cabin was buggy, moldy, wet, and the walls were canvas. There was a fire in the kitchen. There were about 200 of us. There wasn't enough food. We ate burnt tasting potatoes. All 200 of us had to use the bathroom at least once during the trip. There was one bathroom. They didn't stock enough toilet paper or paper towels. Or open up the boys' restroom. Even though only women and girls were there. Yeah. It was a shit show. Party at a woman's house. Everyone talking and happy. They mention a local business burned down. Drunk guy yells must have been Jewish lightning. The entire party goes silent. Awkwardly glancing between him and the hostess, who just so happens to be Jewish. The man looks around. Thinks for a moment. And realizes his mistake. They didn't hear him. So he yells louder. Must have been Jewish lightning. Not a room. But a stadium. Michigan Stadium with roughly 110,000 cheering their butts off on the verge of beating Michigan State for the first time in Lord knows how long. All we had to do is get a clean punt off and we win, but of course we muffed the punt. MSU recovers and takes it and scores for the win as the 110k people once going ballistic with excitement turn to dead silence. While I'm still bitter, I'm amazed I got to witness such a contrast. Disclaimer: I was 12. Don't hate me. Neighbor was a late 20s single guy. Or so I thought. Turns out he had a new girlfriend. I could hear them having a very happy candlelight dinner in their garden from my bedroom window. It was dark on a weekend, Anyway, it sounded like the date was going well. She was very giggly. Me, I was alone and very bored. It was 2003 and I had no internet. So what do? Like the coward I am. Without showing my face, I shout from the window in the most Cockney accent I could muster. First date? Wah-hey-I. I was screaming with laughter lying prone under my window so as not to be seen. When I calmed down a little I peeked outside to see the damage. The previously smiling woman was pouty as fuck. They'd stopped talking for the most part. Just looking up scowling at my window. This all made me laugh even harder and I had to go downstairs as I knew I wouldn't stop laughing. As an adult now I know I was a little shit. But the memory still makes me laugh to this day. Her expression is what did it for me. Not exactly a room. But our plane landed home after my company spent a year in Iraq. Our company commander previously told us to tell our families that they shouldn't come out to the tarmac to welcome us back because it would be a fucking circus and you'll just see them later anyway. Stepping off the plane. Who are the first and only people we see? Our fucking commander's wife. 3 kids. Parents. Grandparents. Brothers. And numerous cousins friends. Not my story. But a friend of mine was attending a Christian Pentecostal summer camp a few years ago with some high school students and other adult leaders. For anyone who is unfamiliar with Pentecostal youth camps, the evening church services can get pretty lively and charged with emotion. People being slain in the spirit. Speaking in tongues. Lots of worship and confessing sins. That sort of thing. There were probably a couple hundred students. So things may have gotten chaotic. Anyway, my friend and one of the other adult leaders get pulled on stage to confess sins to the audience. Not sure who thought this was a good idea. But maybe it wasn't planned. And the other adult leader, a nice guy in his 20s, newly married, confesses to the packed auditorium of high schoolers hyped up on Jesus that he used to have sex with his dog. The evening service pretty much ended after that. My company had a pizza party meeting for a particular department. The scuttlebutt was it was a thank you for a third quarter project completion. The department of 35 people were excited for the attaboys and the pizza. After the lunch the shoe dropped. They were all being laid off because even though they finished the project on time, for this long time customer, the customer had signed a contract with another company and were leaving. Unbelievable crap move by management. Reading these other comments. Pizza seems to be the common way to give bad news to employees. In 2007 Mars Volta played at White River Amphitheater. They got through about 4 songs and then quit in a rage on stage. Turns out the guitarist was having speaker issues and someone threw a bottle of piss on him. He smashes his guitar on the speakers and walks off mid-song. The lead singer says this is what you get when you build an amphitheater on Indian burial ground. I'll give $10,000 to anyone who brings me the head of the motherfucker that threw piss on us. Security ran out to escort them off and we had a full hour and a half wait till our HCP came out. That shit was sour. Also, this is all available to watch on YouTube. Once at my work my boss arranged a pint, pizza and paint night. The company no budget for overtime so the bosses promised us that they would buy us booze and pizzas to encourage us to paint the giant store with them. So a big group of us volunteered just to get there and the manager left early, promising the pizza and beer would be along shortly. It didn't. It was a party for the cast of a musical I was in during my senior year. We were all having a great time and we decided to watch a video of the performance that the host's mom managed to record. She had permission to record the show. In the middle of the recording, you could hear the host's mom whispering while recording. It was obvious she wasn't aware the phone picked up her voice. She was talking about how her son deserved the leading role, not the guy who was actually cast. She was basically heckling his every move during the show. The party ended pretty quickly after that. The poor lead guy was really hurt. He wanted to go to school for theater but that event really discouraged him. Chain restaurant I worked at in college just shut down with zero notice to employees. Everyone showed up to that shift Monday was greeted with chained doors. Public speaking class. I was the instructor. Student giving a speech on 9/11. He is failing miserably so he decides to liven things up with a few 9/11 jokes. Girl in the back gasps and then starts sobbing. Her aunt was a flight attendant on one of the planes. In high school I had a substitute teacher in my science class for 4 days in a row. When Friday rolled around there were tons of rumors ranging from Mono to her getting arrested. But when we got to class that Friday, she took about 10 minutes of class time to set the record straight. In front of about 30 kids in that class and probably 150 in total throughout the day. She explained that she had a late-term miscarriage. I've never seen a classroom go from curiosity to a mix of awkwardness and concern that quickly in my entire academic career. My wife and I went to go see a comedy show. About halfway in, the comedian seemed particularly annoyed with one woman in the crowd because she kept looking at her phone instead of paying attention to him. At some point he essentially stops the entire show and starts to pick on her instead. It started out simple enough. Look at this woman. Her life is so important. Blah. 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 Harmless enough at first and the crowd is on his side. At some point she decides to defend herself and starts jabbing back. Calling him a hack or whatever. Then he escalates his attacks by calling her a fucking bitch. It was so awkward that the entire audience went quiet. Even worse, some people in the audience started taking her side. Got real ugly and he never really recovered. The comedian apologized profusely and said he was out of line. But it was too late. Several groups of people outright walked out. We stayed until the end, but it was really uncomfortable. Montel Jordan concert. After the 4th time he sang the first lines and first chorus of a different song and then immediately turned it into "This is how we do it." One day at work we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They'd been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when our boss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them. I was on a Chicago to NY flight. We all get on the plane, but were delayed taking off due to a heavy storm going on. About 20 minutes in, everybody was still pretty calm until the pilot announces they're working on getting our baggage loaded. Because it's been sitting on the tarmac this entire time. The entire plane looks out and sees all our luggage just sitting there in the pouring rain uncovered and starts freaking out. In grad school we were gathered in a room to hear about how the last term of classes in the program was going to be cut due to a new law regarding educator requirements for the state. Everyone was stoked because it was gonna save us like $5,000-8,000. Then they told us that due to state budget cuts, our total tuition was going to double. Thanks for watching, mate. Make sure to smash that star button for more high quality content.